Hey friends, welcome to Joyful Motherhood. Today I want to share with you my birth story that I had in the hospital about 8 years ago. So I'm going to try and do this on my phone. Our camera has been broken, so I haven't been able to put up videos, but hopefully that will be fixed soon and I can put up more videos. I've been wanting to share this video because I have all the rest of my births on the internet, and those will be linked down below and through the cards in this video. If you don't know me, I'm Laura from the blog myjoyfulmotherhood.com. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe if you're new. I'm a doula, and at times I've been a student midwife. Hopefully I will be again soon. I really enjoy birth education and I'm really passionate about it. Right now, I feel like at the time and season of my life that I'm in, right now the best thing I can do is share my experiences because I think that they can educate in their own way. I have tried to record this birth video 2 or 3 or 4 times, and I have a really hard time because part of me wants this to just be a positive story, to remember it for my son. And then the other part, as I start talking, I get angrier and angrier every time I tell this story about things that happened to me during the birth. Things that led to me having a home birth and an unassisted birth after that with my other 2 kids. And so I don't know what direction to go with this, if I should be like, oh, this was so stupid and tell my horror story, or if I should just tell it in a positive way so I can remember it. But what I'm going to do today is just tell it, and it comes out how it comes out. So it is what it is. Overall, I'm grateful for this experience. It taught me a lot, and I got my son, and I look back on it fondly when I just think about, our first day together. It was amazing, and becoming a mom for the first time. But in some ways, I missed out on a few things because I know better now. Having my other 2 kids on my own and without authority. Okay, so I'm just gonna get started. I was almost 41 weeks. My midwife at the time, I was seeing a CNM, certified nurse midwife in the hospital, which is different from a certified professional midwife that did my home birth. I was told during my pregnancy that nobody in the area would do a home birth, and that really bummed me out. So I thought I had to settle, and I picked the best choice that I thought there was, and that was a midwife in the hospital. Overall, I love them, and I thought that they did a great job. I was threatened to be induced when I was 41 weeks, which I don't like. That's a hospital policy in a lot of places. So I knew that I had a few days before induction. So 40 weeks and 5 days, I decided to do my last natural induction technique, which was using evening primrose oil. And I don't know if it was a coincidence, but I did go into labor after I used those. I inserted them vaginally, and then I laid on the couch for a while. Contractions started. Me and my husband, I remember we wanted to kind of pass the time, so we decorated our house for fall. This was in September, and I'll always remember that day, the day before Eli's birthday now is when I decorate my house for fall. And we just hung out. It's really cool how the timing worked because my mom and my sister and my dad, they were all able to travel in that day. It just happened to work out. And so as soon as they got there, that's when labor really started. So they got to my house, we hung out, and I was really excited going into labor. Several hours went by, contractions got more consistent, we were timing them, hanging out, and I was sitting on the birth ball. Then things really picked up, and I think that I was getting into active labor. So my first baby, so I'm I got scared at that point, and I thought, well, this is really serious, let's get to the hospital. So we went to the hospital, my family followed, we're all really excited, and we get in, and I felt like I was in a lot of pain, and it was actually unexpected pain, I didn't anticipate what it would feel like. I know now, because my other 2 labors, I was in a lot more pain in my first labor. And I think it was because I was scared and because I was traveling to the hospital. Because we lived about 15 minutes from the hospital, and that drive was awful. It was horrendous. I still remember it as being super painful. It was because I was sitting with the seatbelt on and not up and moving during the contractions, so it was more painful. We got to the hospital. A really mean nurse in the middle of the night, she checked me and was really rough and mean. And she said, "You're only a 2. And so I know better now. I don't get checked. But that hurt my feelings. And I was really discouraged. And I thought, well, this hurts really bad. And she yelled at John. She said, she had told me, go ahead and just get an epidural and sleep through the night. You're going to feel great. My husband said she would actually like to do this naturally without an epidural. And she said, well, you're not the one giving birth. So our first little experience there was uncomfortable. And so She told us to go home, and I was like, no, like, I am in labor. And she said, well, you can go walk the halls then. So we went out, we walked the halls, but I was contracting really hard, and I didn't really, at the time, I wasn't really prepared for what the work I needed to put into giving birth. So I was just trying to find comfortable positions, not walk as much. And so I was laying on the chair, like leaning against the chair. My husband fell asleep, which made me mad. I remember going into the bathroom to go to the bathroom, and that was really excruciating. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, I can't do this. And I was super discouraged. My whole family was there. We're all just kind of waiting on the chairs, and it got so intense when I was in the bathroom. I was like, this has to be it. This has to be. So I'm like, we're going back. I'm getting checked. They better keep me. So we go back. She checks me and she says, you're still a 2. So she sent me home, and I cried and I was very mad. So we went and got back in the car and drove home. My family went to sleep and I got in the bath. I only lasted probably about an hour or 2 sitting in the bath. It was so intense. And I told my husband, get me to the hospital right now. So we go get in the car. We drive back, another excruciating 15 minutes. He wheeled me in on a wheelchair because I couldn't even walk. And I was yelling the whole way in, give me an epidural. You better keep me now. Don't send me home. And I was just mad. I was so angry and I was in a lot of pain. And I'm telling you now, after I've had 2 more babies, that pain wasn't normal. It wasn't. So they got me in. They didn't check me. Or maybe they did check me. I think I was a 3. So then they had to keep me. So a wonderful midwife there said, let's go try the tub. So they went and they put me in like this big jacuzzi, and it was so warm and awesome. And I sat there for maybe an hour or 2, and I already just had decided I want an epidural. Get me out of here. And I remember telling the midwife, I want an epidural, and I'm sorry I'm choosing that, but I want an epidural. And she said, you know, those birth prep classes can really scare you that you shouldn't get an epidural, but don't worry, you're fine, go get an epidural. And so they took me to the room. They didn't check me again, and they laid me down on my back. They put an IV in because you need to get a bag of fluids before the epidural. They called the anesthesiologist, and he was asleep and didn't answer his phone or something. Actually, they tried to put in the IV 10 different times. I had bruises up and down my arms from this. It was 4 hours of being poked, and the anesthesiologist not answering his phone. He finally came in about 8 a.m. and he came in and he put the IV in first try. Anesthesiologists are awesome. And then he just went right to the epidural because I was like begging. I was freaking out because they had me on my back for 4 hours in the most intense part of labor. I learned later because I'll get to that. But I do remember that when he sat me up to do the epidural, my pain during the contraction was half as much. I didn't freak out. I wasn't screaming. I do also want to point out that when I was screaming on my back there, a nurse came in and said, shh, be quiet. So that wasn't helpful. I got the epidural in, then it takes about 30 minutes until I felt the relief. Then they came in and checked me. And she's like, oh, you're at an 8. So I went from a 3 to an 8 on my back in 4 hours, basically. And that's a lot of hard work to do on your back. No wonder I was suffering. No wonder I was having such a hard time. I'm sorry, I can't do this without being angry. It is what it is. I'm angry about this birth. Okay, but it gets better. So we called my family. They had all been at home sleeping, and we're like, okay, come on. It was only like 30 minutes to an hour later that I started pushing, and I was so happy. I was calm, just relieved that I was out of pain, and I pushed, really not for too long, and he came out. He was born. He's born at 10:32 a.m. on September 29th. It was awesome. I was so excited and relieved to see him. They put him right up on my chest, and he was screaming, and then nothing else mattered. And we were parents for the first time. We didn't know what we were doing, but we were really excited. Another thing I just want to point out and remember was that they encouraged me to breastfeed too soon. I think my husband had asked, like, okay, can she start breastfeeding? Because he was a great support, you know, and he just wanted to like make sure I got the skin to skin and everything. But I kind of just felt overwhelmed, you know. It's just like, okay, pull down your shirt, okay, rub that baby's face all over your boob. And I just was like, what is happening? And so I didn't like that either. Okay, so a lot of the birth I didn't like. I do want to point out though that it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was pretty standard. It was a normal birth in a hospital, and it can definitely be worse. I'm so grateful that I didn't actually get the epidural till I was 8 centimeters, because that can just start the cascade of interventions, and I didn't want more to happen than already did. I didn't want the epidural. But am I glad that I got it? Yes, because I was suffering, and if you're suffering during labor, that's not good. But now I know that you don't have to suffer during labor. You can actually enjoy it. So I'm grateful for this experience. It led me to really awesome births afterwards. And we got our son, and he's so perfect and awesome. He was 7 pounds, 2 ounces, 19 inches long. And he had really dark hair. He doesn't have dark hair anymore. I'm married to a Filipino. He had like squinty eyes. He doesn't really have squinty eyes anymore either. He looks a lot more American. So thank you so much for listening to my birth story. I'm really grateful to share it with you, and I hope that it helps you in some way. You can ask me any questions you have down below. Be sure to check out my other birth stories and check out my blog post link down below. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!